Hey guys, Boris from BK Forex. I just want to take a few minutes to show you some of the ways that we structure our trades at BK Forex Signals. And today I'm going to take a look at two trades that have just been in play and actually still continue to be in play for us. The short pound Aussie and the short Euro Aussie trade, and why and particularly how we laid them on. So I wanted to take you through our thought process and our trade structure to get you an understanding of what we do at BK Forex. First and foremost, I got to show you that we generally have been relatively bullish Aussie over the last couple of days. And as you can see, this is a brilliant chart that Kathy had put out just this morning, explaining to you basically the key pivot points in the structure of the Aussie dollar over the last 3 or 4 months, and why and how the currency pair traded in response to fundamental events. One of the critical things that we do at BK Forex is that we combine all of our trade ideas with fundamental events and technical structure. And let me just show you exactly what we do in mind. So as you can see, for example, here on the Aussie has basically made a very classic turn of a inverse head and shoulders based upon the fundamental idea that the rate cutting cycle of the RBA is essentially over. Not only is the rate cutting cycle over, but the general fundamental tone of the economy in Australia has really improved significantly. Last week we had relatively good employment data. As a matter of fact, we had the best employment data in years, and that suggests that despite the slowdown in China, despite the prospect of less growth from mining, Australian economy is able to rebalance itself, and therefore there's much less need to try to jawbone, which is to try to push the currency lower from the RBA. And tonight actually, we had Governor Stevens, who was at a conference in Hong Kong, basically with the market expecting that he was going to be a lot more aggressive in trying to push the Aussie down, essentially having a very contained, neutral tone. He really refused to call out the currency and say that it was overvalued at this point, although he did suggest that it should go down eventually. But at this point, the fact that he was not overly dovish on the currency, and the fact that the underlying economic background in Australia has really improved, has really created a very positive flow to the Australian dollar. As you can see, technically it broke out from this congestion zone all the way up above 92 level. So this was the fundamental background against which we were entertaining the idea of trade. So the question though is, how do you want to trade the Australian dollar given this particular fundamental structure? Our favorite way, starting yesterday, was to consider the prospect of selling the of buying the Australian dollar against the euro, because on the flip side, in Europe, the situation is actually quite the opposite. The central bank remains extremely accommodative, and as a matter of fact, we had the Germans, who generally have been the most hawkish members of the ECB, talking about the idea that they're going to possibly allow, or at least be open to the idea of negative interest rates, something that would be incredibly negative towards the euro. So let me just show you how we decided to structure our trade given this particular background. Here's the chart of the Euro Aussie dollar. And as I said, we always combine technicals and fundamentals into a fused trade that hopefully has the highest probability chance of success. Now, one of the most interesting things that you can see is that, yes, you can have a fundamental trigger behind it. So it's obvious that the Eurozone is weak. It's pretty clear that Australian economy is doing quite well. There's a divergence in the monetary policies, but that alone is not enough for us to trigger a trade. We always want to have the best possible technical entry point that we can think of. So given the way the fundamental structure happened, we took a look at the Euro Aussie, and we saw that underneath basically the 150 level right over here, there was virtually no support on a technical basis. Prices really could be in a free fall. So our structure last night was to create a stop sell in the Euro Aussie dollar at 149.72, which is exactly where we entered the trade. Now I'm going to go to a short-term chart just to give you an idea of exactly how the trade developed. So here's the trade, and we actually got short at 149.72, just about over here. This was our entry, because we cleared this 150 level, which was the big last bastion of support, and once prices fell below that level, we felt that given the fundamental triggers, this allowed us a reasonable chance of success. Now, the other concept that we practice at BK Forex that I think you find interesting is that there's two things that you need in order to have a successful trade. One is obviously selection, which is where we had here with Euro Aussie. But number two, and just as important, is trade management. One of the key concepts that we basically practice all the time at BK Forex is that once we have a significant amount of profit built into the trade, we never ever let it go. So we practice what we call the 1-2 trade management, where we sell half our position, usually at a shorter price target, and then we hold on to the rest of the position, hoping that we get an extension of the move. And of course, since you never know if the move is going to extend or not, if you never know what possible other fundamental flow could come into the market, you have to take your profits where you can. So in this particular trade, 49.72 was our entry, 49.32 was our first exit, and we were able to hit it in the early morning of New York time here today. We took our profits here, and now we're basically sitting here floating the trade at this particular stop at 49.72 at break even. And if the pair decides to turn back down and move towards our eventual target of 48.72, that'd be great. If it doesn't, we still would have been able to bank 40 points on a trade relatively stress-free at this point, because obviously we already have taken some of the profit off the table. And that's a critical key of how we structure trades at BK Forex. We always want to have selection, trade management, fundamentals, and technicals all align in one particular in space before we decide to make a trade. So Euro Aussie was just one example of how we did this. We did a similar kind of a trade in the Pound Aussie. And you can see the same kind of idea. So similar thought pattern that Australian economy was doing well, that the UK economy, although doing well, was really not going to be hiking rates anytime soon. As a matter of fact, we've seen the latest data out of UK economy start to slow down its pace of expansion. So therefore, we felt the pound itself was relatively vulnerable. Now, this is where it gets very interesting, because this is a perfect example where you could prognosticate all you want. You could have all sorts of fundamental background behind your ideas, but ultimately, if you do not manage your trade properly, nothing will work well. So here was a case where, again, we saw absolutely no support below the 180 level. We got short 79.72, which was about right over here. We entered in the Asia session. Yeah, I'll put this over here and you can see it. And then the trade did move down as the Australian dollar got stronger right over here. And we were able to make our first target quite easily. But here's the rub, and this is why it's so important to have trade management as well as trade selection. Although we were able to hit our first target, over the wires, the Bank of England member, Martin Wheel, has decided to say, you know what, we're not going to stay at our 0.5% interest rates for much longer. And that created a massive upward rally in the pound dollar, which kind of erased all of these gains that we had in the pound dollar, and eventually we got stopped out at break even. And this is exactly why it's so important to both select and trade manage your trades, because trading is always a fusion of technical and fundamental factors. And since fundamental factors, by their very definition, cannot be predicted on a day-to-day basis, things change and things become fluid. It's very, very important to stay flexible. So those of you who traded with us at BK Forex were able to bank 80 points so far, and we're still floating the Euro Aussie trade. Not bad for government work in a day's worth of working. But more importantly, you're able to practice the kind of, I think, good quality habits that are necessary in order to become consistent and profitable over the long run. So I wish you guys all the best of luck. Hope you guys join us at bkforex.com. I have asked Kathy for a very special 24-hour discount to our service. You can see it on the website over here. Generally, our service is $199 a month, and here we're going to discount it to $125 just to give you the pleasure of coming in and hopefully spending a little time with us and seeing how exactly we trade and hopefully generate some good trade ideas for you. Thank you again for joining us. Wishing you guys the best of luck. Here's the Euro Aussie trade that I'm going to leave you with, where we're still floating this trade and seeing if we can milk more pips out of our trades today. Boris Schlossberg, Kathy Lean for BK Forex, over and out.